Welcome back. It's the Kovacs Report with some more comic book reviews. I'm going to jump straight into Sabretooth, A Dead Don't Talk, issue 2, out from Marvel. It's a little mini-series set in the early 1900s, written by Frank Tieri with art by Michael Maria. So issue 1 introduced us to this 1900s world. Sabretooth is an orderly at Ravencroft, which is like a mental institution, criminally insane, that kind of thing. And in the basement, there's this mysterious doctor who happens to be Mr. Sinister, who's experimenting on the inmates. So they don't get on. There's a bit of a story between the two of them. Read the first issue if you want to know how that happens. And he's not happy with them. So while he's doing his rounds, one of the inmates or patients happens to be Mad Dog Murphy. Now, this guy is a gangster, and he's basically one of Wilson Fisk's ancestors. And he says, listen, I need to get out of here, reclaim my territory, and if you get me out of here, I'll make you rich. I'll give you everything you want. I'll give you power. We'll take New York back. So that's where we left it. And we jumped straight into the 5 Points, which is a very famous part of New York. If you haven't seen the film Gangs in New York, it's all set around there. And this is very reminiscent of that movie. In fact, it's basically this movie, but Marvel. So yeah, here we go. The 5 Points. So it explains that this place is absolutely riddled with poor and needy people, all the undesirables, immigrants. They're nestled together. It's terrible living conditions. They're living like animals. And because of those conditions, it was only a matter of time before they started banding together and fighting back, forming gangs. And we introduced some of those gangs. So we've got the Dead Rabbits, the Bowery Boys, the Plug Uglies, the Yancey Street Gang, and soon after that, the first masked gang called the Sons of New Amsterdam. Now, these guys are particularly bad. They're worse than the others. And they would prey on freshly landing immigrants until they got even braver and decided just to prey on everybody, prey on the locals too. So they're not a nice bunch. Now, because of this, it wasn't long before super gangs started appearing. So sort of more Marvel-esque, mystic, mechanical, I guess vampires too. So we got the Franken Gang, the Street Sorcerers Supreme, the Shockers, and the Night Flyers. Now, Sabretooth says that this is how it remained for years until they broke out Mad Dog Murphy out of prison and started shaking things up. Now, we get treated to a couple of brutal pages of art here where he just pops someone's head. It's great. The art's really good. The violence is fun. The action, I really enjoy it. You've got bodies everywhere, dismembered parts. Exactly what you want from this kind of book, especially with Sabretooth in it. And then we kind of sort of move forward a little bit and we find out that time's elapsed. The media's picked up what's going on. And they've taken back a lot of territory. He's now kind of like the kingpin of New York, all right? So he's been systematically taking out the gangs one by one. And Sabretooth sort of says, I've sorted the Franken gang out. They won't be bothering by placing their severed hands on his daily newspaper. So they won't be doing much for long. So there's a nice nod, I think, to Iron Man here. Nicola Van Cone, his incredible Metal Man armor. That was a nice little touch. Now, this is where, for me, the book, I think, just falls apart. And it's down to the dialogue. It's the only thing wrong with it. The dialogue is really, really hammy. It feels far too pulpy, far too 1960s. It just feels out of place. Even though this is a period piece, it just ruins it for me. It takes away all the sort of harshness and the violence and that grimy underworld from me. It just feels dumb. And that's the only way I can put it. It feels dumb after this. Anyway, so this, Mad Dog Murphy, this Wilson Fisk, if you will, he's also known by another name, the Gardener, and for good reason, because we find out that he's actually got a head in there. Now, this is the guy, I think, that was running the gang while he was in prison. Or was that the Bear? It was one of the two. I don't know. But either way, having heads, growing plants in your plant pots is probably not a good thing. So while they're chit-chatting, the lizard busts in and he decides to have a throwdown with Sabretooth and Mad Dog Murphy. And even the dialogue here, I thought it couldn't get worse, but it really does. I mean, you'll probably tell me that you loved it and it was great, and that's fine. I don't know what I'm doing. But for me personally, it just didn't sit. And I really begrudgingly read the rest of the book. So they managed to fend him off and chuck him out the window, and they realise that we've got a problem, right? One of the gangs has obviously hired this muscle, this weird beast, right, to take us down so that they could take their territory back and regain their power. But he says, listen, there might be an even bigger problem. What if all of the heads of these gangs have come together to do this? Because that's going to put us in our graves. So the stakes are high for these two. And sure enough, we jump to Chinatown, of course, where we see a meeting of all the leaders of all the gangs. And it is true, they are working on taking him down by hiring an assassin. They just so happen to be interviewing one now. Now, there's a little bit of misogyny here. Now, and this assassin, yet to be revealed, throws out some fiery daggers to prove that she's as dangerous as any man, probably more dangerous. And we get introduced to what I think is a brand new Marvel character, Dragonfire. And there we have it. So, like I said, in my opinion, I love the concept. I think the art's okay. I was really enjoying it. But the dialogue just took a dive. It took the shine off it. I will read another book. I think she's an Iron Fist, actually. You can see the tattoo there on her arm. So she's some kind of Iron Fist, which I love. I thought that was really cool. But this book, I'm going to give it one more issue. I'm not sure about it, but you might like that style of dialogue. And if you do, you're going to love it. If you don't, you're going to kind of think, okay, that was right. But those are my thoughts. I'd like to hear yours. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one, hopefully.